Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am.
Nino Brown Boxing, and I'm back in the building. Shout out to the LDBC. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. I'm dropping this video early in the morning on my ride into the city to get some work done for today. It's funny because I made a video about Shawn Porter, and while I was recording the video, I got a phone call. I got interrupted, and I never got back to finishing the video and editing it. And now this morning, I wake up. I was like, man, while I get ready, I like to listen to videos and see what's going on. Normally, it's not much, but this morning, I happened to see a video from Fred from Barbershop Conversation. And then I look at the title, and then I see the thumbnail, and it's no other than Kenny Porter. So, it's funny because I guess basically the video was about, it was a video about Kenny Porter basically attempting to shit on what he believed to be YouTubers, but also known as boxing fans. And I just found it funny. First thing first, the whole topic was about Shawn Porter being scared of Errol Spence, the body language in his interview with Fred. People were talking about that. And me personally, I dropped plenty of videos on it before. I won't change my stance on it. I believe that Shawn Porter is afraid of Errol Spence Jr. Plain and simple. There's too much evidence out there. I remember back when, before Errol Spence got the Kell Brook fight, it was like, oh yeah, he's young, he needs to get a belt, he's a good fighter, but he's a prospect. All of this talk. Then Errol Spence gets a belt, and all the time is spent chasing Keith Thurman. Now, it was also implied prior to the Keith Thurman fight that Keith Thurman was faking injuries to avoid the fight with Shawn Porter. See, that's the shit I don't like. The inconsistencies of the situation. So you have this, he said something about fighters to get to this level, they're not scared. But I'm like, wait. So the champion at the time, Keith Thurman, the more accomplished welterweight at that time, Keith Thurman, is willing to fake a car accident to avoid Shawn Porter. He could possibly do that. Because when all the talks about show some proof, when all the talks about that, when prior to this, Keith Thurman never had any track record of getting injured and missing out fights. To me, honestly, it kind of reminded me of Eddie Hearn asking for proof of funds when a guy doesn't have a history of this. But that's irrelevant at this point. When I guess the whole situation when they were trying to imply that Keith Thurman was faking injuries, faking car accidents, like basically faking insurance claims and faking police reports because they weren't privy to that information. You can say that about Keith Thurman, but if a YouTuber, if a boxing fan that's been listening and been supportive of Shawn Porter for years say, wait, it was first Errol Spence needs the title, and then after Errol Spence got the title, it was excuse after excuse after excuse. At one point it was, oh, I was never offered a fight, and then Errol Spence stated, hey, guys, if y'all want to fight me, you can fight me now. And they didn't take Errol Spence up on that offer. They tried to say, well, we didn't see a contract. Now I find it funny because when they were chasing this Keith Thurman fight, that Keith Thurman rematch, and those Keith Thurman fights, that didn't happen yet. Contracts weren't floating out there, especially for the second fight. I know that for a fact. Contracts weren't floating out there because Keith Thurman hasn't even made his return yet. Keith Thurman got stripped. Now he's facing Danny Garcia. But then there was another point made that I found out to be very funny when he kept repeating over and over, no fighter is scared, no fighter is scared. And then the Mike Tyson effect came up. I'm like, well, people were afraid to fight Mike Tyson. Then it went from a fighter on this level just made it beyond 6 and 8 rounders. They're not scared. Well, last time I checked, Mike Tyson was fighting in championship fights, undisputed and unification heavyweight bouts, and his opponents were scared. So it's an exception when it came to Mike Tyson. But you know what? I'm starting to believe that it's a Errol Spence effect developing in the welterweight division. Nah, scratch that. An Errol Spence effect has already developed in the welterweight division. And Shawn Porter is one of the fighters in that weight class that's afraid of Errol Spence. Plain and simple. Now, he went on to say, and to me, this is the funniest part of the interview. He went on to say, well, these guys, you know, they have their little stations where they talking about Shawn is scared. See, the problem is they can't fly to Brooklyn. First of all, let's take a step back. Some YouTubers, if they can afford it or not, they don't have to fly to Brooklyn. They can drive there. Some can walk to the Barclays. Some are actually in New York. And another thing about, they can't afford a floor seat. See, I mean, Kenny Porter, I commend you for trying to play on these guys' insecurities to increase ticket sales. Hey, man, you're a businessman through and through. But the fact of the matter is, if they can afford it or not, it doesn't change the fact that Shawn is afraid of Errol Spence. You can deflect all you want and try to play on these guys' pockets, but it doesn't change anything. It didn't change anything for people being afraid of Tyson. It doesn't change anything when Eddie Hearn tried to deflect about Anthony Joshua being afraid of Deontay Wilder. And Kenny Porter, when you deflect, it doesn't change anything about Shawn Porter being afraid of Errol Spence. You can say that they'll spar this person, they'll spar that person, but at the end of the day, it's not Errol Spence. And that's the thing. You may not be afraid. Shawn, let me stop saying you, Kenny, because you're not the fighter. You're not the one getting there facing Errol Spence. Shawn may not be afraid of Errol Spence, but he can definitely be afraid of losing to Errol Spence. And that's, it's definitely a difference between being afraid of the man and being afraid of losing to the man, or being afraid because you know you're going to lose to someone. At that point, the fear is fear. You can display the same body language for being afraid to get in the ring or being afraid to put yourself in a situation and possibly lose. Now, we know the fact is Shawn Porter has lost the step-up fights in his career. He gained the IBF title. Congratulations. But he lost it. He lost it to Kell Brook. You can say Kell Brook held. You can say the ref wasn't calling it. But just like the same thing we say to any other fighter, like we say to Triple G when it comes to, this guy was a runner, guess what? It's your responsibility as if you're facing a quote-unquote runner to cut off the ring. Shawn Porter, if your opponent is holding you, it's your responsibility to keep him up off of you. Just because his style isn't suited to what you would prefer in order for you to win doesn't change the fact that he won the fight, doesn't change the fact he was the better man that night. Hey, Kell Brook was the champion. He couldn't hold Errol Spence all night. Errol Spence made him quit. So all this talk from Kenny Porter, to me, is very entertaining, man. I really find this shit funny. And it's kind of sad at the same time that a lot of these guys tend to forget that these YouTubers, these guys with these channels, these guys with these stations, these guys that do this talking on the internet, they're boxing fans. They're boxing fans that want to see the best fight the best. And in this case, when it comes to Shawn Porter and Errol Spence, Shawn Porter is afraid of him. Now, he could be, some people may believe he's just flat out afraid. Some people may believe that he's afraid that he's going to lose to Errol Spence because he doesn't have the confidence in himself. Some people can believe both. But at the end of the day, his actions have reflected that he's afraid of the man. You can say it's business. You can make all of these excuses all day, every day. Last I checked, I thought the goal was to become undisputed. Not wait around and stall out your career. But see, in the latest news, I heard the interview when Kenny said, oh yeah, I got control over this show over here. I'll put Shawn on the shelf and he'll never fight again. But see, a few months back it was, oh, we'll fight Spence, but we want Thurman first. We want that WBC belt first. Now the conversation has started to shift. So and that's the thing. Shawn may not be scared. Kenny, you may be scared for your son to face Errol Spence. But all I know is someone on Team Porter is afraid. Now, me personally, I believe both of the guys are. I believe Kenny is afraid for his son to take that damage and take that L where it can mess up their money. I believe that Kenny Porter, I believe Shawn Porter believes that Errol Spence is a superior fighter than him, and he's afraid to take a loss. I believe it. I believe this 100%, and that's just the way it is. Now, I have yet to see anyone in an interview, basically put Kenny Porter on blast when it comes to all of the inconsistencies when it comes to this topic of discussion. Like, well, how important is becoming undisputed? How important is unifying the division? Why stall out your career chasing a fight with Danny Garcia? But like you said, Danny Garcia didn't want the fight. Keith Thurman didn't want the stay. He didn't want the rematch because he isn't back yet. See, you can complain. It's funny how I've seen plenty of interviews with the Porters complaining about Keith Thurman waiting and implying that he's afraid or implying that he doesn't want to fight. But when the tables turn, that same rhetoric isn't brought up in the Porter interviews. It seemed like Kenny Porter needs to be reminded of the interviews that he had in the past and all the things that he was applying about Keith Thurman, the things he implied about Danny Garcia. And, I don't know, maybe the guy forgot. Maybe he forgets what he says, but a lot of this shit is similar. But, man, this Nino Brown boxing, I found this interview to be very entertaining. Like I said, Kenny Porter, I commend you for trying to play off these guys' insecurities and increase ticket sales. Hey, that's some good reverse psychology right there. Will it work? I guess we shall see. Hey, we may have someone come up to him, like he said, hey, Mr. Porter, and they may speak their piece. Now, if he goes on camera stating that, yeah, this happened, like at the end of the day, the only thing he's going to try to do is chalk it up to, it's business, you don't understand, you're not privy to this information, you're not privy to that information. But the simple fact is, if Shawn Porter was offered the Manny Pacquiao fight in that whole situation, he would have took it. If Manny Pacquiao, prior to this fight being made, was the WBA regular champion, Shawn Porter would have took it. He would have took that regular belt and wore with pride. So all of this, I paid money to the WBC. I just think it was bullshit. I think it's bullshit to a certain extent, I should say. Not 100%, but to a certain extent, I definitely think it has some bullshit attached to it. I would love to hear what the other fellow LDBC members think about this. And it's like, I just find, I think it's just disrespectful how Kenny Porter tried to come for the fans. At the end of the day, they're fans. They want to see your son in the ring with Errol Spence Jr. All of these excuses is bullshit. If you know that you're better, then conduct yourself as such. But hey, man, we'll just see what happens. It's Nino Brown Boxing. Shout out to LDBC, and I'm out.